I pulled it up on my phone too.
Mr. Nathan Fitzsimmons, the man of the hour. We've been patiently waiting. Everyone's been waiting, but Nathan's doing very important things in the background. Is the promise of Bitcoin, has it changed? What in the world is happening, Nathan? The price is crashing through the floor. We almost hit the 58K, gang. We
Oh,
almost
so
went there.
close.
So close, so close. Now we're back in the 70s, just like, a blink of an eye. But what is happening right now? Like the suppression of Bitcoin, the price, the craziness. We were just talking offline. The last 40 days felt like the entire year's gone by. We're snatching and grabbing dictators. We're doing all kinds of stuff. This is a wild time. You guys are separating from the nation of Canada up there in Alberta.
Yes.
So I mean, what is going on? Like literally, what is happening right now?
I think honestly, what we're seeing is a lot of problems with both narrative and mission creep and things that have gone over the last year. It almost feels like a weird, almost like a fake cycle of sorts, right? Like we never got a blow up. There was no blow up. So we manufactured our own out of like Quantum FUD and Jeffrey Epstein and Satoshi FUD. And we had some Nord Tether FUD back on it. Like it's all a whole bunch of distractions. I think we got out over our skis and way too in deep with the treasury companies and the ETFs and that sort of play. And even like yesterday, Ben and I, we were going through the MicroStrategy earnings call, and they're all talking about the government getting in, right? It's all about the government getting in. And when you're dependent, when the narrative to pump Bitcoin is that it's going to sit in an account and the government's going to come and buy your bags, that's not what we're here for. Bitcoin, its mission at itself is still on point, and we are still pushing ahead forward. But there's been, I think, so many people that have forgotten what that is, and it's switched back to being this fiat mindset that we're just here for some quick gains in our Klaus Schwab account, that they've lost focus of what we're really trying to accomplish, what we're really going to do. Because ultimately, this takes out governments. Like there's no two if, ands, or buts about it. If you're going to separate the state from money, if the state cannot take money by force, well, then it's not really a government anymore, right? They don't have that manipulation or coercion over cash. It's going to be a service. It could be services in geographical regions. It could go into a whole bunch of other things, which is the fun anarchy rabbit hole. But more or less, what we're seeing, I think, is it's collateral damage from gold and silver getting way out over their skis. Like, don't get me wrong. The dollar is going to fail. That's happening. It's not happening this year. It will be suddenly when it eventually does happen, but I still think we got a little bit of time left. There's no way the Canadian moose shekel is still around before the US dollar implodes. So we're not seeing that in precious metals yet. There's no way that's happening. But definitely got euphoric. Silver got incredibly euphoric. I expect those guys to kind of calm down for a little bit, find a new floor, and kind of chop sideways for a touch. And I think it's just collateral damage from that. I think I saw Amazon yesterday was down like 10%. Like these markets have nothing to do with fundamentals. It's not like Amazon came out and their service was 10% less useful. I love it. It's great. It's super convenient. I'm totally lazy and buy stuff for the studio and stuff on Amazon. It's momentum trading. It's all sentiment. Right? It's all psychological games. Like the Fed is just playing psychological games, right? They really can't move even the bond market. They have no real say there anymore. And if you want proof of that, just go back and look at COVID, because they came out zero rates and it didn't move the needle at all. It wasn't until the fiscal spending came in, and we know which way the fiscal spending is going. So to answer your question, there's nothing wrong with Bitcoin. There's some terrible stories and FUD and just incorrect narratives around it. And I think because things have been so almost like we've almost been crippled by our own success, right? We did have Keone, who's still in prison. We still need to support the samurai devs, but more or less it's a favorable regime, right? We're not really the outcasts anymore. We're not really up against some like big bad in that kind of way. And I think people have forgotten why, not you guys watching this stream, there's no way in hell that's you guys watching this stream, but people have forgotten what the purpose. We're trying to separate state from money, right? We're on this grander mission, and I think we've just gone way too far off base, and we'll find our way back. There was a whole bunch of tourists. There's a whole bunch of people who were only here for the fiat gains. And normally you have like an FTX, right? Or the ICO bubble popping, right? Or Quadriga CX or Mount Gox. It's almost like every year. It's funny how like I was so wrong. I thought the cycles were dead, and apparently not. Apparently we did just peak in October and then we crashed down 50%. All right. I guess Bitcoin will always humble you, and we got to make sure you stay humble and stack sats. We had to flush those people out. Right? If you're going to, you come for the gains, but you stay for the freedom. If at this point in time you still haven't found the freedom, then we got to rotate through. We're going to a new cohort of buyers, a new cohort of psychopaths who are here for the broader mission, and we will just creep back up. I honestly think, and again, famous last words, right? You shouldn't make price predictions. I honestly think in 6 months, we're back above 100K easily. I think this is really temporary. I think that the money printer just goes hard come spring with the new Fed coming in and with midterms coming up. That I think this is almost like the COVID crash, that we're going to see like 6 months and we'll just grind our way back up, and then we just continue on mission.
I mean, it does feel like that because, I mean, everyone's been saying it for a while, and things move slower than you think they're going to. But it's like, I mean, Trump, the boys, like they don't want to be lame ducks the last 2 years. So it's like
No.
at some point, they have to juice it, or do whatever they can to try to juice it. And really hasn't been much activity on that front, obviously. So at some point there's going to be the give it the old college try. Like they're gonna
Yep.
do that at some point. So things do have to change in that sense. And a little alpha, as I just was telling Nathan that I got done recording with Caitlin Long just right before we jumped on, and she said that things are, again, they move slow, but they are thawing. So like the relationship between custodian, what they're doing, and the Fed and what's happening. There's still choke points still going on. I mean, there's remnants. I mean, it's funny. Like my mother had asked me, like, well, what would Trump have to do in order to like actually, be a success in your eyes after he got elected? I was like, come in and delete 95 to 99% of the entire government right away. Like day one, that your executive orders, I'm getting rid of all 3 million employees in the government, and you're gone. And like it sounds funny on face, and they're like, oh, like there's no way. That is the only way you could maybe possibly salvage the system, which is impossible. That would never fly socially. You're just firing 3 million, like whatever, right? So like, what would actually, you can't, and that's why we Bitcoin, because at the end of the day, it has to be this. And Caitlin said it too. It's going to be, to your point, you said it as well, right? Edifying that, but it's just going to be this gradual like whimper and not a bang. It's not, I know Larry, he has the big print. We're going to have some like, we're going to fall off the cliff, which I think at times we're going to do too, right? And like the hyperinflation or something. In saying that though, we could, right, Nathan? I mean, like you could have, we wake up one day and the confidence of the currency, the 1%, 5% of society says, yeah, I'm good. I don't believe it anymore. Which, I mean, you look around you, I think the under 40 generation, they're like, I just don't think they have enough wealth in order to impact it enough, though. That's the crazy part. And that's where I feel like we're in this really demographic shifting world where if the younger generation has only 5%, under 40 crowd has 5% of the global assets, but at the same time, the boomers were that age, they had like 20% of the assets. I think if the Gen X or Gen Y and Gen Z generation had 20% of the global assets, I don't think the world would look like it does right now. I think we would have much faster Bitcoin adoption. Things would change much faster. So, I mean, what are your thoughts there?
No, largely agree, right? It's going to be, it's almost like science moves forward one funeral at a time. The same thing is going to happen with the new monetary system and its adoption as well. It's going to be generational, not measured necessarily in decades. It really is going to be like kind of that more like, I don't know, 24-year cycle, something along those lines. But even going back, like dollar's done, right? But not right now. And the reason I would like so strongly hammer that point is even you go back and look at like Weimar Germany basically got like taken out back behind the wood chipper and just punished repeatedly for World War I, right? Like, that's essentially what was going on. So you had the rest of the world kind of choose to just basically screw them over, and they had to print to try and deal with the situation. The US is still in the strongest position, although I think we are going to a multipolar world, and that is being pulled back. However, if there is a currency that's going to fail, if someone's going to be sacrificed to the currency gods, they're probably going to grab like Canada, maybe the EU, maybe the Japanese yen. Like, it's not going to be the US first. So as long as those other weaker currencies and other weaker countries that don't have necessarily the military or industrial base are still kicking along with their fiat currency, just know we haven't hit that point yet. I really do believe that we're going to see gold, Bitcoin, and USD rise over the next couple of years, right, in tandem together. And it's not because necessarily, again, like I'm so bullish on fiat. I'm not bullish on fiat at all. That's why I have everything possible in Bitcoin. It's that as the other currencies collapse, they'll likely collapse into the US dollar. Like, I don't think there's any way Canada still has its own currency in the next decade. I don't think it's remotely possible. It wouldn't even necessarily make sense. We'd be better selling our energy denominated in USD and just using USD currency, right? That would be better for us, right? We're essentially just a US peg stablecoin at like 70%. So we've got a long road ahead. It's not that moment yet. And you're right. It's interesting about the idea of like the psychological implications that I forget what it's called, but it's basically the recursive money function, that you think your money has value today because it had value yesterday. And there is a psychological expectations built into that. There will be that moment where it goes much faster. But again, you're going to have to, you have to basically start to approach that S-curve kind of level where either everyone already thinks that the money is no good, like we've reached that ubiquitous point where everyone knows that fiat just has no value, and you get like a preference cascade as everybody chooses to move to something else very quickly, very rapidly. It looks like a sudden shift, but everyone knew it was bullshit the whole time. And we just see it was socially acceptable all of a sudden for us to go, yeah, screw the US dollar, we're going here. But we've got to get a lot more people even onboarded with identifying what the problem is to begin with. But when the psychological shift happens, it can be very rapid, right? It's just a choice, especially if the alternative is 10 times better, which Bitcoin is, and it's 10 times easier. And I will say, as someone that does like a ton of Bitcoin education, it's getting easier all the time, but it's not quite at that level, right? Just from everybody's got so used to like Stripe and PayPal, and you can tap your debit cards and all this shit too, right? We're getting better every year, but we're still kind of that dial-up phase. when using Bitcoin is also easier, and it already is 10 times better, but when it's also easier than using dollars day to day, and then we see something really sort of kick off, it's very possible you could have that quick shift. But again, the whole population has to already be aware of Bitcoin and how good it is, and already come to the conclusion that there's a problem with the fiat, and we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then you couple that with, hopefully we have some change in the sense of the tax structure, right? Whether it's capital gains taxes or the de minimis exemptions, whatever it is, on and on. We need more of that, where then you have an explosion of usage. And, people, I love that people are like, oh, it's not money yet, no one uses it. Like, well, who the hell is going to what normal person is going to use Bitcoin all the time when you're hamstrung? Like, you have taxes you get to pay. So the average person is not going to do it. Like us crazy psychopaths, yeah, okay, like we'll do it, we'll figure it out, stuff like that. But the average person is not going to do that. All that being said, did you catch the Marty and Odell doing the rabbit hole recap this week, and like them building the AI agent and like having the AI agent just like doing yeah, how wild is that? So to your point of like the ease of use, and I asked Caitlin Long about this, because what they're doing at Custodia Bank, but also this world where like you don't even have to do it. You can just, hey, can you go do this for me, bot? And then it just does it. It builds the lightning, like it used the lightning kit. Like it builds everything. It builds the wall. It can do anything. And like we're right there on the precipice of that. I mean, how much have you and Ben been playing around with that much in the back end, or like what are you guys seeing from your end?
Not as much, but definitely something we want to put more on the radar. Like I've been using the large language models for just dealing with like brute data stuff all the time, right? It's super, super helpful in that sort of regard. And I've been listening to Matt and Odell, and then Francis Pouliot at Bull Bitcoin has been just raving about the stuff that he's building with Claude Bot in the background as well too. Wild. I did a podcast. Oh geez, I'm blanking on his name right now, but a podcast with one of the developers from Get LB Hub a while ago, and this was one of the big things that he was focusing on. And I very much think it's coming. And also, we're at the point where if you jump on this tech early, you have a major advantage, right? Because anything that the way that I've been framing it up here, and Brandon, tell me if this makes sense to you, is that particularly with AI, it's not catastrophic in terms of jobs. I reject that premise wholeheartedly. You can go back and look at the Industrial Revolution, people moving to the cities, getting off the farm. Like, we used to be an agrarian society, 90% of people are there, then they move in the cities. Humans will adjust and find things to do of value. It could be a major productivity gain, not enough to save the dollar. That's never going to happen. But it could still be a major deflationary event, a major productivity gain, and you're going to get so much more output out of each individual person. When any sort of like business situation, you've kind of got three main roles, right? You've got your staff that are working it, you got your entrepreneurs that are building it, and you got your managers that are kind of delegating and overseeing it. And those three roles kind of fall into the different time frames. Entrepreneurs are looking at the future and from a larger view. Your staff are kind of in the present, in the moment, and your managers tend to be like rear-facing, data-driven, right? They're looking back at what happened and then making decisions on what to do going forward. That managerial class, that's getting cut. Right? It's so easy for a bot and AI to deal with rear-facing data and make conclusions. And then you give them spending power and the ability to just go through logistics and stuff. They will probably do a better job of managing a lot of things. Think like supply chain management, right? Like that job is just going out the window. Even things like law, not necessarily going to be as valuable anymore, not be as necessary.
Accounting.
Exactly. Yeah. Which finance as well too, which is wonderful. Because we have such a brain drain towards like the financial industrial complex, right? You got the best and brightest. Where are they going? They want to go to Wall Street. They don't want to start a business. They don't want to be necessarily productive. They want to go and push numbers around so they can get money, because that's honestly the highest return for them right now. So devaluing that, almost like demonetizing finance, I think is going to do wonders just for human productivity. And I think these bots they're not the apocalypse that people think. I think they will largely greatly improve people's lives. I think you'll see a return to more entrepreneurial-minded folks. They'll start new things. I think you'll see a return to art as well too, and maybe even a return to beauty. Because essentially, when a bunch of the shit has been basically demonetized and is now free, then maybe you want to pay somebody who's a really good designer or architect to make you a beautiful home, or to do a little bit of decorative work on the archway. Right? You don't need necessarily the cookie cutter, just printed out house if you have additional funds, because a whole bunch of other stuff doesn't cost you money anymore. So very bullish on that. I think that's going to continue. It's also, I hope that we can get rid of kind of like the nihilism that we see in Gen Z and get them back on board, because it's almost like, so if I take something like YouTube, right, that we're on right now, you have basically removed the gateways in terms of having your own news show, your own entertainment program. Like, you can do everything yourself. You can be a one-person media outlet and take care of everything with Photoshop and AI and Premiere Pro and all the tools that are out there, right? It's really easy, and it's gotten really cheap. You don't have to be a studio. There's no gatekeeper anymore. Well, in the same sort of way, like if we can get the spirit back in that generation and make sure they're off to the races and good to go, you've almost kind of like lowered the barrier to entry to starting a business, because now you don't necessarily need to hire an accountant or a lawyer. You don't need to have an assistant. Like, you can AI bot out a lot of that stuff, and you can have just a solo entrepreneur operation up and running that's not going to cost you a huge amount of capital to get going in like your late teens or early 20s. And so I'm incredibly bullish on what this does for just overall entrepreneur and productivity growth.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more. All right, you got me. I'm trying to put out a link to our thing here.
Do it up while you're doing that. Like, even
I'm
on
gonna
that
do it.
note too, because you and I are both fathers, right? It's like, if I'm going to invest in my kids right now, I'm not looking at university. That seems like a terrible
Right.
idea. Maybe engineer or doctor, you could maybe make a case, but it seems like an absolutely terrible idea. Like, the investing in your kids right now is getting them trained up using these bots, learning this technology, and maybe putting together a little bit of a Bitcoin stack to start their first business. Like, I think that's where the real winners are moving forward, which is great, right? Because hopefully there's so much that goes along with that perspective, in the sense that you're now venerating those who are producers. Like, the fact that, one, that we call this capitalism, and then two, that people think that capitalism is evil, that is one of the biggest failings, right? But they feel like they have no opportunity, no choice. Now, if it's basically anyone can go out there and start any business and get going right there today, no problems, low barrier to entry, maybe we'll see them come back, right? Maybe we'll see a return to understanding, like, again, going back to like, when does the money change? Well, when they start to understand how money and how productivity and where value comes from, and start to actually maybe make some money, they might be more inclined to go, I'm not really in favor of this whole dollar system that I'm stuck in right now. And that might be one of the major, like, it may be one of the biggest pushes forward, is not only how well Lightning and things interact with the AI agents, but just the productivity growth. People go like, I don't need communism. I basically get a whole bunch of things for free.
Yeah, it's so true, and that's why, again, like, we homeschool our kids. Like,
Yep.
the world that I always ask people, like, what's your intention for the kids? What's your intention just in general, right? And no one ever really asks that. And it's like, think about 20 years out from now. Like, where is the world heading? Where's the puck going? This is a great
Yep.
Canadian, Wayne Gretzky, once said. So this is the future of obviously it's right here in front of us now. So what do you think it's going to look like 20 years from now? So spending time, your kids spending time with their parents more, is the best you can. Not everyone can homeschool just logistically or whatever's going on, but getting them out of that world of being indoctrinated as much as you can, and then into a world, like you said, of using your resources, using the things around you, coming and studying, using the AI models once in a while, and then maybe more as they get older. And like you said, a little seed fund, having a little Bitcoin wallet set up for them that can grow over time. They can start a business. And one of my buddies growing up, he knew a family, and I think and this was 20, 30 years ago, they grew up, the dad gave them, it basically said, hey, you need to start a business. I forgot what it was, but he had to start a business when they were kids, and he helped them, start it when they were, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, started a lemonade stand. The girl did like a little flower thing, a little whatever. Well, she grew it. And by the time she was 18, she was like a multimillionaire, and she had
That's
grown this
insane.
thing.
That's
Yeah.
lovely.
It's like, you just don't hear that coming out of government run
Yeah.
schools. Like, that just doesn't happen, right? All the people, the entrepreneurs, drop out of government run schools. And we see that in university all the way on down. So it's just thinking differently. And that's where we come back to, like, again, did the promise of Bitcoin change? No, of course not. Nothing changed. It's just their perception. It's just the FUD. It's just the people, yapping their jaws about it. And because something's not happening right this second, people just can't see it. It's like, hey, you're gonna get really like out of shape, and you're gonna have a stroke someday if you if you eat that cheeseburger or whatever. You do it over again, and like someone eats the cheeseburger right there, and they just like turn around. You're like, well, I didn't have a stroke, idiot. It's like, well, that's really really smart of you. Really using your intuition there as a human being. Like, you can't see that and extrapolate that out for like the average person, and that's where, as a Bitcoiner, all we do is look ahead in the future. And again, that probably gets us in trouble too, Nathan, right? We're like telling everyone, hey, this is where the puck is going, and trying to show people and educate people. But at the same time, most people live in the right now, this very second, which makes it tough, because they look at us and say, hey, it was not used as money, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I digress, but
It gets so frustrating too, because like, I use it as money, the team uses it as money,
I
I
know.
see it uses money all over the world, and the it's if you're seeing the things coming out, right? If you're seeing the FUD going out there, particularly the Epstein FUD was absolutely ridiculous. No, there was fake emails going around. No, he is not Satoshi, but you can understand why he would absolutely. What's interesting, and it's funny, I had this. I don't even know if I talked about this on the live stream, but I had the kind of recognition that. I think I was naive for a long time regarding Bitcoin, because I had the viewpoint that, like, these stupid central bankers and governments have no idea what's coming for them, right? And they're just letting us skirt on by. And then now in hindsight, looking at that email dump, I go, oh no, they did recognize what it was, and they were trying to get their hands around it, right? It makes perfect sense that, like, it absolutely is a threat. They actually picked up that it was a threat, and they've been trying to get their hands around it since about 2011, unsuccessfully. But man, like, It's going to be, I see a comment there for Christopher about Elon Musk and the idea of AI making everything so cheap. I agree. And humans like to work as well, too. So I think that we'll just find other things to build, other things to produce, other things to put forward. I don't think that we're done necessarily with labor. But remember, like the promise of like the washing machine is like, it's going to save you so much time, but it didn't. And it can't on a fiat currency, right? Because you keep having to go on that treadmill harder and harder and harder. And technology's been hiding the inflation this whole time. It's one of my favorite things about Jeff Booth is, and it's really hard to like try and get people to wrap their head around this, right? They'll see even like CPI and they'll go like, oh, inflation was just 3%. It's like, no, you're not starting from a base point of 0. You're not starting for, there's a whole world of entrepreneurs out there that are trying to push prices down for you. So it should have been like -2%, maybe -3%, but instead it's like actually +7. So that was a 10% increase that you got screwed out of. Your life is supposed to be getting better. As you and I both know, like getting as close or on a Bitcoin standard as you can, it does.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm trying to find the dang tweet, but I just saw it like right before we jumped on. It might be on my phone actually. And it was like who Satoshi is and Epstein. It was like, you might have even seen it. Someone had retweeted, like Nick Szabo or somebody retweeted. It was like increasingly stupid guesses at who Satoshi is. It was like Hal Finney in 2010. It was like Nick Szabo. And then like this year, Epstein. It like went all the way through Elon Musk. Every year was like some new person. It just got like dumber and dumber and dumber. So anyway.
Actually, one of my I remember who put it. Someone threw it out there, but it's like, you think the guy who invented Bitcoin was talking on an unencrypted email from prison? Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I know the one thing I want to mention too is that because we all have these moments, right? And everyone's starting at a different position, right? You're going to go through your own learning journey, and I do encourage everyone to please keep learning. But if you're feeling unsure right now, if you saw some of these things and you actually had concern, which I don't fault you for, right? It's worth exploring and trying to answer, like, is that possible? Is it true? Could someone hijack Bitcoin and prove to yourself that they can't? If you're feeling unsure, if this has you a little bit unsettled, like, is there some sort of compromise? Could this happen? That's just a reflection that, like, you need to spend more time diving into the tools, diving into the tech, getting a better understanding of it. Because trust me, the further you go, the higher the conviction just directly pairs with it.
Yep. Yeah, so true. I'm going through my feed too. I'm tangenting a little bit. I'm just looking at people like, Charles Hoskinson. No, I'm looking at people like Charles Hoskinson. I actually watched one of his videos. I haven't watched him in years. And I was like, yeah, let's see what this guy's up to. Because I've been on this kick lately. And I haven't even gone live that much really over the last like week and the last couple of weeks, because I've been so down the rabbit hole of like trying to go into all corners of thinking, like trying to break out of the Bitcoin echo chamber. And like, what are these like professors, like Professor Mearsheimer, Jeffrey Sachs, the Young Turks, the Blaze Media, so like the left and right political spectrum, the professors, the geopolitical guys, the gold bugs, like trying to do anything to break out of the echo chamber. And I will say, I mean, no one knows what the hell is going on. I will say that there's a common thread that no one knows what in the world's happening. Everyone's got a different, it's a new world order and multipolar order and the international rules. Was there actually international rules? And Mark Carney is the smartest guy in the world, Jeffrey Sachs thinks, because he went to Columbia like him. And then you go over here and he's like, he's the dumbest guy in the world. It is absolutely wild what's happening. But anyway, the Charles Hoskinson, I was just listening to him, and he's a really good speaker, and 90% of the stuff I agree with him. That's what's so like sinister about some of these people is like he's talking such an incredible game. It's a 9-minute video, and I agree with 8 minutes of what he says. And then he goes into like, Cardano's, this is how we're changing the world with these other coins, and I don't care what coin. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like you nailed all of it, bro. And then you're like, oh, but I'm hot swapping you with like some dumbass coin that is centralized and or can be compromised by whoever wants to compromise it. I mean, it's just like, it's so mind blowing. So mind-blowing, Nathan.
It's like Richard Hart, right? King of Spam there, right?
Yeah.
He was actually really good on Bitcoin, and he is smart, but he is a con artist, and he is just a straight-up con artist, which it sucks. Like, could you not use your powers for good, please, sir? But no. They're going to go down the dark path. Most people, that's one of the things that I've had like a hard time accepting, I think, over like the last year, is I always expected that most people would comply because of fear. I figured that was going to be the primary motivator, threat of violence, like locking up Keon, to get the support the samurai devs. But no, it's greed, right? That most people will definitely comply for greed. They'll get invited to the table. They'll see the big numbers. They'll get sucked into that seems to be the deadly sin that's pulling everybody in the wrong direction at times.
You know what the other thing too is, honestly, I do think there was a deep-seated, and I don't even think it's a conscious, it's more of a subconscious thing, where going back to this AI thing and people being this fear of losing your job. Like, there's so many political commentators that I used to watch 20 years ago, and they're still doing stuff. Like I said, the Blaze, like I used to watch Glenn Beck all the time 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And like, I think there's something subconsciously, like people trying to protect themselves.
Yep.
They don't even know it, but they're trying to protect themselves. So they won't even study Bitcoin. They won't latch onto Bitcoin. They won't accept Bitcoin. They won't accept this neutral monetary layer that no one can control, because somewhere someone, like, they know that their job's in jeopardy. Like we said, the accountant, this,
Yep.
that person, that the finance guy, all these people, the consultants, like, so many people just go away if you accept this and humble yourself to this monetary standard. And I just don't think there's so many humans that are they're clasping and grasping at, like, the last vestiges of, like, what they've known in their life, how many years they've lived, and they cannot let go of that. And that's, to me, the mindset part of this is, like, I don't think people think they're worthy of Bitcoin. Like, they're like, I'm not worthy of that kind of power, that kind of wealth, which is your time and energy. I'm not worthy
Yep.
to not be stolen from. Like, people just don't have the self-confidence to even be like, yeah, I can do that. I can operate a wall. I mean, you guys do this all the time with people, and how easy it is, especially like you said earlier, like with the technology there is now and how easy it truly is, but then also walking through these steps. And it's like the perception people have and the mindset that keeps people back is like, it's painful. Like, it literally hurts
Yep.
you and that keeps you up at night. I don't know.
It's
That's
the
my
it's
rant.
funny because one thing immediately jumped out at me is beautiful rant, Brandon. What immediately jumped out at me is that, like, you have fear of the future, fear of losing your job. The point of savings and point of money in savings is to deal with the uncertainty of the future. If you cannot save, you cannot prepare for the uncertainty of the future. It's like, the grasshopper and the ant, right? And how much of a psychological trap that has people in, that they can't simply just work and know that as long as they tuck some away, one, they'll be able to, because they want to spend more next year. It'll be the same or less, right? And that they'd be able to prepare, that, like, you don't have to stress about whether or not you lose your job because you got a year's salary saved up, right? You don't have to worry about, like, what else can I pivot to, or what else can I do, because I have this protection. I have prepared for it. You strip
And
people
it's
of the
getting more
ability.
valuable even while it's
Yep.
sitting there, whatever you do have, right? It's amazing.
100%. If you strip people of their ability to protect themselves, then they're basically like frightened deer, right? You basically have, like, scared animals running around, completely dreading the next day, which puts them in incredibly short time frame. It keeps them hyper stressed, hyper aware. Like, their cortisol goes through the roof. Your health is going to be shit. You're not going to be spending any time outside. You're not going to be spending time with your family, and you just become obsessed with.
Hypertension.
It's almost like
Yeah.
let me see if this example makes sense. So there's a whole bunch of studies in animals regarding, like, learned helplessness, right? And one of the experiments that we do is basically mice and rats in terms of swimming. If you are constantly treading water, but you don't perceive there's any possibility of actually getting out, at some point in time you just give up, right? And you can see that on people's expressions. You can see it in their lives. They almost have this learned helplessness where they're not even really trying to survive anymore. It's almost like it's just a continuation of the day. You don't see them trying to better or improve. You just see them, like, really just mucking about with no aspirations for the future. I don't share that. I don't think you have it as well too. I think it's just maybe personality or built in. I'm extremely, like, let me just say, ambitious. I always just want to be like, what's the next thing I can work on? What can I keep going on? What can I build? What can I improve? And I don't see that in my peers. I don't see that in most people. There's very little thought for growth among there. And again, it all just ties back to the money. I'd be curious your thoughts on this as well too. It almost seems to me, and I'm sure the two are related to, like, a hyper feminization of society. Meaning in the sense that, like, like, why am I not worried about the future? Because I'm confident in my ability to handle whatever comes, right? Which we categorize more as like a masculine trait, this ability to, like, no, I can handle it. I can take responsibility for it. I can do it. If you always have this, like, deferral to authority or looking for somebody else, Big Daddy State, to take care of you, man, are you a scared little mouse just trying to tread water?
It goes back to government and schooling. I mean, this is
Yep.
people don't want to look the gift horse mouth in the face, the gift horse in the face. But it's this is what it is. It's 100+ years, really, since the late 1800s. This Prussian school system, the Prussian compulsory school system, and I went through government run education, and so, but I was very. My father was very libertarian, so, like, I already was predisposed to, like, questioning all these things. So, like, and I started shutting down in high school and, like, college, and I was just like, this is so dumb. And I'd argue with teachers and professors, but, like, the average person, you go through, and I shouldn't say that. Like, I didn't escape it. Like, I still know there's a good chunk of me that still wants to conform and comply and, like, do all these things. Like, it's because you're brainwashed and you're put in the system where, well, ding, the bell rings. I'm going to the next class. When can I go to vacation? When can I go to the bathroom? Here, when can I eat? You only have 20 minutes to eat. Like, it's a system that just teaches you to memorize, comply, conform, and as we know, the Rockefellers, we want doers, not thinkers. This is 150 years in the making, and then you mix that with communism and coming over here and Marxism, and we want to break the will of the American people, the Stalin and all these guys. So it's a known thing that was going on. And then you mix in like the British Empire, the British Empire, then you've got like the communists and like the Frankfurt, coming over from Frankfurt to Columbia here, the Frankfurt School. And like all these things over the last 150 years have been, I mean, honestly, Nathan, it's amazing the West is still standing at this point. Like with all the barrage of what's going on, I mean, it's pretty remarkable that it's been that anti-fragile. But in saying that, we have paid the price in the sense of everyone 40, 45 and under, you are paying the price right now of these sins of people letting this go on for generation after generation. And just, so like you said, now everyone's looking around for like, well, I mean, going back to the mindset thing, how many times do you hear, well, Bitcoin's great, I actually understand it, but the government won't do this. But this one, and that's just your mind keeping you back, right? Like you realize if 1% of us, of society said, yeah, fuck off, we're not doing this, guess what? That would be it. Government would have to bend the knee and that would be over, game over. And we don't do that. We're not there yet.
There's so many of those little psyops too. Like I hate, particularly like the U.S. is a republic and Canada is like a parliamentary democracy. But for lack of a better term, like this idea that like, they can keep these two things in mind too. Like we live in a democracy, the government is something else. It's like, no. If you live in a democracy, you are the government.
I love
They're
that.
just people, right? It's not separate from you, but it's such a psychological mind shift.
Vote for people. Yeah. But it doesn't mean you're a democracy. You're a republic. You just use democratic means maybe to vote or parts of that. Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't stand that.
Right? People they don't necessarily realize their own power. And it's so hard to wake people up to that, right? Again, we're so attuned to the negative. That's where our attention is going to go. That's where everyone is always fixated. But it's so attuned to wake them up that like, no, you realize that they have nothing without us. They literally have nothing without us. The greatest asset this government has is us as tax cattle. It is possible that you cannot comply. A law is just an opinion with a gun. The U.S. has a nice history of having a different opinion with different guns. It's still totally... all that is still absolutely in the cards. Like even going, just touching on Alberta sovereignty that's coming up here as well too. That's one of the ones I get all the time. It's like, well, even if we vote for it, they're not going to let us leave. Think about the logistics of enforcing that. It's a whole different game. Like all of these things are basically organizational constructs that we can choose not to participate. We actually can choose not to give them income tax. We can choose not to recognize them. Like that's doable. Humans can just do things. People in the government are not different than you. Believe me, like Carney just takes a shit like the rest of us. Like there's nothing special about these people, but they would like you to believe so with their demonic powers that they got from Jeffrey Epstein.
Literally. I mean, and again, I will say, and there's nothing, I was saying this earlier too, it's, if you would have told me 20 years ago where we're at in society and like we have conspiracies and all these, like the richest guy in the world is talking about these things and they're out there. I mean, I would have laughed you out of the room. Like we were so lost 20 years ago. We had George Bush is starting the bailouts, which that form of government, the Republican people didn't believe in that, but we're here bailing people out. And then Obama comes in and finishes the job. And like, that's when I realized 17 years ago, I was like, oh, these guys are on the same team. Like they're doing the same thing. They don't, there's no like, oh, well, I believe in this, you believe in that. No. They're on the same team. It's not red versus blue, state versus you, as our good friend Walker always says, right? And so
100%.
that's the world we live in. And it's the understanding of that and people getting screwed. And it's like, it sucks because you don't want to see, as Jordan Peterson said years ago, crying, right? Like, I just don't want the people I know around me to be burned. Like, I know the direction that things are going, and I don't want you to be burned. And it's like, as a Bitcoiner, you sit there and you're like, I can see where this is going. Like, this is, we shot the puck in around the boards, and it's going to come back on the other side. I got to go to the other side of the blue line. I'm going to wait here. The puck's coming around the boards, and it's going to show up right here when so it's so frustrating because it's right there, but you feel like, you know what, we just need more pain. And that's the thought I've had every year. You just look around, you're like, just need more pain. And unfortunately you hate that that's the answer, but kind of is.
And it probably is the next onboarding, right? Like I think the next major wave of Bitcoin, just like COVID was a major onboarding wave for Bitcoin, it's going to come from some pain event. But there is some optimism there. I very much am in the view that we win. I very much think that we win. I think it's almost, it comes down to a certainty. It's almost like, what did you make? It was a republic if you can keep it, right? It's like, what did you make? It's like we fixed money if we can keep it. So it's going to take some maintenance along the ways. But things will progressively get worse, right? And you can almost take that Weimar chart and just put it over top of like political chaos, and you can see that like, okay, that's kind of going on. Things are getting more extreme. The swings get more extreme, and I think they will continue over time. But I was talking with Simon Dixon and Jeff Booth about this, and this idea really cemented in my mind that all we have to do is just exit the system. If we exit the system, we get out of that state schooling, we get out of state money, right? We get remove ourselves from that existing system, that we're okay. And as long as there's still this exit, so everyone else is in this like controlled prison. And as long as there's still an open door to come into that system, so Bitcoin remains decentralized, secure, and we have privacy built on top of it as well too. We will need that as well. Then the existing system will have to get more authoritarian. It will have to get worse. They'll have to clamp down more. As the experience there gets worse and worse and worse, people will hit that pain threshold where all they have to do is walk through the open door. And they can't close that door. As long as we can maintain Bitcoin, they cannot close the exit from the prison. And we're just waiting for everybody still inside to get uncomfortable enough to come and join us. And they will. Humans will move to get away from pain. But you're right. They have to have that experience. So I'm optimistic that eventually the prison just like completely drains, right? There'll be some guy really holding on at the end. But as long as we can maintain Bitcoin, we'll get there. It's just a matter of just waiting for them to cross over.
It's so true. And I remember like when I really got into like marketing like 10 and 12 years ago, and I don't know who I was studying, like Dan Kennedy, or it was somebody like a Russell Brunson. It was like somebody Russell
they're
Brunson
great.
was studying. Yeah. And it was one of the old, like the classic guys. And
probably Kennedy.
Yeah, it was probably Kennedy, and he was just, saying like, people move towards pleasure or away from pain, but only the entrepreneur, visionary, probably INTJs, probably a lot of the last 15 years of Bitcoiners, they move towards pleasure, and like the rest of society moves away from pain. And so that kind of tells you where life is going. If you're marketing to someone, that kind of tells you. If you're marketing to the masses, you gotta kind of go away, market towards or away from pain. It's like, hey, we can get you out of pain, blah, blah, blah. But if you're marketing towards like an entrepreneur, or visionary, or whatever, an early Bitcoiner, it's going to be more towards pleasure. It's going to be more towards like, hey, we can fix the future. We're visionary type thinking. So I guess that kind of answers our question. Like you need to build it, to your point, like what Jeff always talks about. Like we need to build these things, build. And I love the Titanic, and people here know, like I love the Titanic analogy of like, we're on the life raft, and like most people in the Titanic don't think it's going down. They've read the newspaper clippings. They're still reading them. Like the deck chairs are starting to slide around, but they're like, no guys, the US dollar's too strong. This thing's too big. Like look at it. It can't sink. And then eventually, and really you can only verify truly and understand it when you do get on the Bitcoin network, and then you start moving away, and you're like, oh my gosh, this thing really is going down. But it's hard to see, and it's so tough. And then people are voting for a new captain after they hit the iceberg, and that's voting for the new president, where it's like, doesn't matter, guys, you already hit the iceberg, like too late. And then people are like trying to shuffle the deck chairs, which is, to me, it's like getting into different assets. Like, oh, I'm gonna do real estate now. Well, now I'm gonna like day trade, and like I'm gonna do all these other things. And it's like, guys, you're still on the Titanic. So it's like, it's the prison analogy, it's the Titanic analogy, and it's all right there. But it does take pain. Unfortunately, like we don't want it. That's why we're doing what we do, so we can get more people out of the prison or onto the life raft, and hopefully we can lessen the blow, I guess, at the end of the day. So
no, 100%, man. It's basic human like evolution and built into us is that as exciting as the red berries are, we're more concerned about the tigers in the bush. It's always going to be the case, unless you're a crazy, weird, autistic Bitcoiner like the rest of us. And it's like, hey, welcome, glad to have you here. So wonderful to have a chat with you. And you are more like, no, you have that optimism. You want to build. It's funny too. Bitcoiners have this, and I used to think this was everybody, and it's really not. And I remember like swallowing that black pill at one point in time. I thought everybody wanted to be correct and be right. So like if I could show you the proper argument or lay out like here's a syllogism for you to explain it. I thought everybody was interested in truth by default. Not the case. No. But we are, right? And that's why we pursue it. And the rest of them will come from some emotional push because it just hurts too much, right? I remember talking to a few guys that got burned in the 2008 financial crisis, right? And that was so painful for them that when Bitcoin came up later, that still stung. And that's why they got in, right? There's always going to be that motivation. It's usually going to come from that sort of place as well, too. I'm curious then, Brandon, too, because right now we're having a bit of a drawdown. We're having a drawdown. If we're at Syndicate, I'm going to pull it up right now. We are currently sitting at 71. Look at that. Going into the weekend, a little thin liquidity. Maybe we're going to pump up a little bit here.
It was Oliver, somebody in here said. Down 10, up 10. Let's go. What do you mean?
100%. This is easy.
Drawdown.
We're getting God candles in either direction. Who cares? This is great. No problems. Omega candle is coming. Samson,
Sorry.
it will be
Yep.
right. It just will take a very long time, potentially,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe not, but he will be right. But I think it's like one thing I do want to point out is that, again, if you're feeling unshaken, because we had this weird drawdown since October, right? We could be going into a bear market. It could be the classic 4-year cycle. I don't believe that is currently the case. I don't think that's necessarily what's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Yeah.
But I would say one is that if you are feeling shaken, you are feeling apprehensive, that's fine too, right? Long as you haven't lost, it can see your net worth cut in half in terms of fiat, that can sting, and that's completely normal and completely acceptable as long as you haven't lost faith in Bitcoin or gotten actually scared off by the FUD. Like, it can still suck, right? It can still be painful for us. There's nothing wrong with Bitcoin. We'll be fine, guys. We'll climb back up like we always do. It crashed from here, it crashed there, it crashed a million times in the future as well. But like for me right now, so for example, like Bitcoin is my savings. I don't need any savings right now. I don't need it. I don't need to access that capital for anything. And so I'm fine. It does not affect me. I've gone through these drawdowns before. It's not an issue for me. But I do have friends in the space who have been here longer than I have, but they had plans. They had plans that they were trying to make some changes. They're trying to do some lifestyle upgrades, right? There are things like your time and your family that are potentially more valuable than Bitcoin that you might want to actually save and spend those on at some point in time. And if that's you, man, that sucks right now. If you want to, take a trip with the family, you're looking at maybe upgrading the house or something as well too. Maybe getting the first house, right? Because you need a place to have your, 7 sons and 7 daughters, which you should all have, because then we're going to outbreed them, and that's how we're going to win. It's okay that, like, right. You don't have to be like, this doesn't bother me at all. No, if you had shit you want to do with your money, it's the best money. If you had shit you want to do and this cuts into it, that sucks. And I feel for you, but there's nothing wrong with Bitcoin at its core. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on that, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. I mean, I do feel for people. Again, I know I saw some guys in the chat, Chris or somebody saying they got blown up. I don't know if it was a boating accident. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, it's I feel for people that are getting liquidated or stuff like that, because they're just trying to live their life. Maybe they're not trying to do anything crazy, but they're just trying to live their lives, stuff like that. So again, at the end of the day, and I talked to Caitlin about this too a little bit. It's you have this world where most of like the deposits, I forget exactly what it was, but it was either Chase or someone had done the analysis on like all the deposits that were leaving, and we just saw this week. People sharing some of this, like, we're getting debanked. Chase Bank's shutting down my account because they're trying to take a bunch of cash out to go buy Bitcoin on the dip this week. And she was talking about this, and she said, yeah, like that's well within their right to do that, obviously. But she's like, they did a thing where 88% of the deposits or the that were taken out never came back. So you made me think of this earlier, where the defunding that system, it's it's going to be a whimper over time, slowly constricting, like a boa constrictor, that system, as you keep taking deposits out of the system, putting it in self custody, proof of reserves for things, full reserve, custodia bank like she's doing, doing make sure there's like kind redemptions for the ETFs and these different Wall Street things. That way they can't play these games over time. They can't play all these paper games, and they're going to be here and there. But people, and she even said, like, she thinks people will blow themselves up. Like, she thinks there's shenanigans going on right now, and she thinks there's going to be people blowing themselves up, like massive people. Like, it could be countries, could be massive banks, massive players will. And then that's the, hey, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. Because guess what? People look around, they say, oh shit, I guess I really can't play the games. And then people start learning and they start complying and playing with the rules of Bitcoin instead of trying to fight Bitcoin.
No, 100%, man. It's the longer we go on that something, it's like days without having something collapse or blow up.
Yeah.
The longer that happens, the more likely it is that it's going to happen,
100%.
right? It's just winding tight. It's going to happen. It's funny. I'm now even thinking of that banking analogy in terms of like when the dollar finally does die. It's basically like a bank run, because when a bank run happens, when you see that panic. Remember, we had Silicon Valley and what was it, Signature Bank and these things too.
Yep.
Like, I think it was Peter Thiel that I'm pretty sure kicked off one of those. That's a little suspicious, but right. It's definitely worth going back and exploring some of those.
Subject for another day here coming up.
Subject for another day. I think there's some PayPal mafia bullshit going on in the background here at times. But regardless, once like a bank run kicks off, that thing will become insolvent so fast, especially in this day and age when you can do things by like electronic withdrawal. And the same thing will happen to currencies. That basically is a currency collapse. It's like a bank run on the central bank or the currency itself. So it's all coming, and we're going to see more of it. And I guarantee there are shenanigans going on. The question is just like who, how many, and to what degree. Like, would they rehypothecate to 90%? It's like, yeah, you're probably safe doing that. They probably do that. Yep. And then nothing happens for a year. So do we go like, we could be more profitable if we go to 80%? Oh yeah, you probably could. I know there's some like rumors floating around about Binance. Can't substantiate any of that. Don't know if it's true or not, but people were having problems with the withdrawals, and I see them kind of buying up reserves there as well. But yeah, At some point in time, we're going to see that like this moment will come where there's like more Bitcoin on like treasury balance sheets than Bitcoin in total. Like we'll be able to see this and go like, okay, that's a little suspicious. Somebody's swimming naked, because they will not go quietly into the night. They will continue to try and play these games to maximize it on their way out. And you know that like it's probably the dynamic between like the banking system and the banking cartel getting out over their skis and the government bailing them out. There's going to be those next little acceleration points, right? If we had like a systemically important bank actually blow up because they did something stupid, they would just print the hell. They would just print the hell out of that. Gosh. I think it was 8 billion for the GFC. It was 2 trillion, I think, for COVID. So like the next bailout is going to be like, I don't know, 8 trillion, somewhere around there. And just peanuts. Just stack that on top of the 38. Yeah, 46 trillion now in debt. No problems there whatsoever.
Yeah, that'll be
these moments will come.
Yeah, and I think that the important thing too, and what gets lost in the sauce a little bit, and I asked Samson this week, and I asked Caitlin too. We're entering that phase, so these questions are coming up more now. But it's what makes Bitcoin different than gold and silver, in the sense of like the beauty of gold and silver is the physical nature. But unfortunately, as global money, you can't have the physical nature to it, and that's the actual downside, is why it hasn't worked for 5,000 years. What makes it beautiful and work in a sense locally doesn't make it work globally for 5,000 years, which is the layered currency system, the layered money, as Nick Bhatia wrote about. That's what develops on top of this physical money. But at the end of the day, the auditing of Bitcoin every 10 minutes, it's so simple that it doesn't get talked about in a way, right? So like the auditing, the triple entry accounting system that Bitcoin is, and it's auditing itself. The trade is the audit. I mean, it's mind-blowing to think about. And so it breaks people's brain. They can't understand it. They don't go down the rabbit hole. They don't study. But the reason that gold and silver is they're able to suppress the price for so long, and Chase Bank, I mean, how many banks have paid fines over the years for all this crap? I mean, it's wild, right? Billions of dollars of fines, and they just suppress it because no one can audit it. Who the hell can audit the gold and silver? You don't know how much there is. You don't know where it's at. You got to trust the middlemen. You can't do that with Bitcoin forever. You can do it for a day or maybe a year, even like you said, 90%, 80%, but eventually you get found out. You FAFO, and then good luck. Society learns, and you're gone.
Dude, it's like it all just keeps coming back to this giant email dump. Did you see that in the Epstein documents? There was also emails regarding that the Fort Knox is empty.
Oh, Caitlin mentioned something. I did not see that, but she mentioned something like that.
She knows something. I'd be very curious to have like a conversation out in international waters to see pick her brain, see what's hiding there. But no, I completely agree. Like the other one too, I think it's so underrepresented and so underappreciated at times, is the difficulty adjustment, especially for people who don't really understand what's going on there. Because we saw gold and silver just rip in price. What is that going to do? Mines that weren't profitable are now profitable. You're going to see an increase in supply to meet that increase in demand and bring the curve back down. Whereas Bitcoin, it's not only unconfiscatable if you hold it in self-custody properly. It's not even like a fixed supply. Like it's perfectly scarce. It is a fixed supply, but it's also a completely inelastic supply, which is mind-blowing in terms of pulling all these things together and putting them into the best currency and the best hope that we have for the future. It's wonderful to see. You can't have silver or gold just go on an epic run and never end, because they will mine more and they will increase the supply. It's going to hit, it becomes profitable at some point in time. Bitcoin, you can't touch that. And I think that just like the auditability, I think that's one of the most amazing features that always goes underlooked. Man, I will tell you though, from like the education perspective, I love seeing the little light bulb moment when I explain to people that you can memorize 12 words and port your entire net worth with you anywhere in the world. That one always, I can just see the little like click, like what? Because even talking about like the physicality of gold is why some people like it. And I get that. I understand why they would want that. Being internet native generation, it's a little bit easier for me to kind of grok those ideas. But it's the same reason, like the physicality of real estate. Well, that can be a benefit. It's also a major drawdown. If you're in California and it gets burned and you can't pick it up and move it with you to Singapore, that's a bit of an issue, right? You have those limitations because of the physicality of it, which makes it less suited for money, which at least in the US, funny enough, for an unexplained reason, I was scouting through US real estate today, which my God, your prices are way better than mine. It's absolutely atrocious. But it's like, I'm stuck in a geographical region that may or may not be a free place. It will maybe be a communist hellhole where the prices are absolutely astronomical. It's like, I can just memorize 12 words and go with me. That's unbelievably powerful.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. How much you got in like another 10 minutes?
Yeah, we're good.
Cool. Yes, you said something earlier too, and it made me think of, and I've the gals and guys on here, I have heard me read it before, but Common Sense that Thomas Paine wrote right before the Revolutionary War, early, I think it was January 1776, and it's a small pamphlet, and in the very first paragraph, he talks about, so going back to the Paine thing, I forget exactly what you had said that made me think of this, but it was he says in the last part of the first paragraph, he says, at the end of the day, or he says, you know what? I actually have it right here. But he said,
Let's grab it. Of course you have it on hand. I hope it's next to a gun.
I was thinking, there we go, of course. Well, yeah, that's out of bounds. So that's
Yeah, that's just over there.
it's just over there. It says, so the first paragraph. Oh wow, is this it? It says, perhaps the sentiments contained in the following pages are not yet sufficiently fashionable to procure them general favor, which is kind of what we're talking about, right? Like no one really sees it yet. So, hey, this might go over a lot of people's heads. A long habit of thinking a thing wrong gives it a superficial appearance of being right. Yeah. How wild is that? Like people just not standing up and saying, oh yeah, we have laws in the books for that. But if no one actually comes down and says that's a law, you broke the law, then it just flies by and it just happens and things metastasize and grow. And then it says, and it raises at first a formidable outcry in defense of custom, but the tumult soon subsides. Time makes more converts than reason. And so going back to this demographic shift and everything, I forget what it was earlier that you had said, but like time is what does the heavy lifting. It's not, you had said when you explained it to somebody and then you're like, hey, look at how it's right. Like, it's beautiful. It's perfect. Like, look, and it makes sense. And don't you want to be right in essence? And people are like, no, don't care. No. But time is what does it, and pain probably in education over reason. Reason doesn't work.
No, but that's
moral of the story.
Yeah. Like, God bless and rest there, Scott Adams. I loved his work, and I thought he was he was such a wonderful thinker. But you have those little moments across your education, your journey, your growth as a person. Someone will say something, and it just becomes imprinted on your soul. Like that is just a thing that you cannot get rid of. I had one of them that came from Matt and Trey from South Park early on that definitely put me down the libertarian rabbit hole. And one of them from Scott that I never forgot, and it completely changed my worldview, is that he said people don't make decisions rationally, they make them emotionally. And I never stopped to think about that. I never explored that at all. And it was realizing that how unbelievably true that is, that we make an emotional decision and then we post hoc rationalize it to justify it to ourselves for almost everything. And I can take the biggest examples too, because the house that you live in and the wife that you marry are probably the biggest decisions that you're going to make. And it's not like you sat there with a whole bunch of Excel spreadsheet and like, okay, so my wife she's 183 centimeters. Okay, that's perfect. Good. And okay, based on it's not, it's all pure instinct. But you go oh no, she comes from a great family. And this is no, that's not true. What it was is you had lust and a bunch of things kicking in, and it's my brain is this feels good, go this way. It's all just purely emotion. It's the most impactful decision you could have on your life. You recognize that, you realize the craziness in the world makes sense, right? They got a whole bunch of distorted inputs coming in that's making their emotions and their emotional state just go completely haywire. The other random thing I want to throw out there, just because for some reason this jumped into mind, complete pivot, don't ask me why. Or you're talking about the lawlessness of don't enforce laws. It's I can't wait till we get back to the point where if somebody's stealing from the grocery store, we just grab them and that's socially acceptable. I hate that we have
the people that's standing around, you just throw them down and you're just got them.
Yeah. It's we don't need the cops for this. Don't worry about it. You're going to put that back right now. Or me and these other 5 guys that are in the grocery store are going to take you out. Instead, this is complacency, which again, I get because there's so many risks to getting involved in, but things have just deteriorated. Right. But it's the apathy of your own community.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
It's the apathy towards your own society. And again, it's the it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the expansion from the individual. So we'll argue sometimes whether or not the family is the core unit or the individual. I very much coming from the individual standpoint and then building out to family, then to community, then to town, city. We kind of expand from there too. But if you as an individual, because you're stuck on a Fiat treadmill, because you have a shitty job, because you're stuck under blue lights, because you eat like crap, because you don't work out, because you don't read, because you don't improve yourself, if you can't get you sorted, you never expand to the next layer. But if you get on that Bitcoin standard, you start worrying, you start saving and being able to defend against the uncertainty in the future, then you get to go out. And the hope is that we get to expand out again from this, because we'll be in cities of millions of people, but no one knows anyone or cares about anybody else. Then you get to expand back out where men like you and me, we have ourselves and we're good. We have our families and we're good. And then we start taking care of our community. So if someone goes into our shop where we actually know the guy who runs the shop and we like this butcher and he's a good dude and he stole some shit. Yeah, we're just grabbing him and Brandon's throwing down the gloves, as I'm sure he's maybe done once or twice before.
a few times. That's probably why I had to stop playing hockey. So
That's probably
getting my head knocked around too much. Which, by the way, quick side note, it's really not because like most people, the little known thing about fighting and like hockey fighting, not like jujitsu, where it's like jujitsu is the best thing if you're going to learn something. Learn jujitsu. That way, it's like a grappling. You never want to be in a fight. Number one, that's the first thing. Like run away from all fights possible. And then if you get in one like jujitsu where you're like doing something and then like tackling and grabbing the person, like getting them positions where you can control what's going on, that's the best thing. Hockey fight, again, obviously a little different, but the thing with people swinging the fist, it's like, yeah, you can get caught with one and then you're just donezo and then good luck. That's why you don't want to be. That's like the last thing where you're swinging fists is where you want to be. So that's number one. Number two is most people can throw punches, like men, women, like generally someone can throw a punch. But he who can take the punch is usually the victor in these fights. If you watch like old hockey fights or whatever, and these guys, there's some guys you could hit with a 2x4 in the face like 10 times and they'll just laugh at you. And then like me, like I have a soft head, so, so like I'll get like, someone will catch me in the top of the head and I'm just like bleeding all over and I'm like, you're all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine. I just cut.
That's little known fighting tips, I guess, secrets. But
I love those ones, like it just like because you just grab the shoulder pad. You just see two discs. Yes. You're right. It's basically like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, right?
That's what it is.
Everyone's got their left hand on their shoulder, just trying to knock you off the skates.
Exactly.
And it's just like who can take the most punches before falling
That's it.
down?
That's it.
No
Probert Domi, man. If you haven't seen a Probert Domi fight from the early '90s, it's just feeding each other. So
I missed that. Remember like Don Cherry and like dude,
I have all 30 tapes, man. I have all 30
Thank
of them.
you.
He's the greatest sports broadcaster, whatever of all time commentator. He's that's all
my
story.
childhood. That was my childhood is watching men with knives attached to their feet beat the shit out of each other for my entertainment.
This goes back to this is funny. This is why I wanted to actually bring this up. So we were talking about testosterone earlier, and probably correlated to people understanding Bitcoin or not, all this stuff. But like, I have a theory. I wrote an article like 4 or 5 years ago about men not being punched in the face. And just like society, when money has no feedback loop, then things start to deteriorate and break down. So money is the highest form of communication in this feedback loop for society. But when men who generally grew up for thousands of years going to war, number one, but also like they'd fight, they'd wrestle, and like there's a mutual respect and accountability and this hierarchy of like, hey, I know what happens if I do something stupid on the baseball diamond. Like Jimmy's gonna come. Like we got in a fight before. It's like then you have mutual respect. Well, now like when people buried in their television or their gaming app or whatever, and your keyboard worrying it everywhere, there's no feedback loop for like accountability, merit, like all these. Well, you wouldn't say that to my face. Well, no, of course not, because people know there's a feedback loop. But now society gets so this whole thing of like I've always had this thing of like, man, people just need to get punched in the face. Like there's a lot of people that walk around. I'm like, man, you would do a lot better in life. You'd be way more better adjusted in life if you would have got punched in the face like growing up, maybe a couple times or whatever. And it's not to say like, to go hurt someone specifically, right? It's just like this general sense of society where people just lost that feedback loop. It's just gone in so many ways. And so anyway, that's part of it. And then the other thing I was going to say too is when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. To what you were saying earlier, and that's like Robert Kiyosaki was one of my first mentors 15 years ago, and he'd always say that. And so that, like you said, like people make emotional judgments and then they rationalize later. So it's such a brilliant thing to know.
No, I completely agree, by the way. So it's like, one, I'm an anarchist libertarian. So yes, it's still technically assault, but just bear with me here. It's the threat of violence the underlying threat of violence between men is what keeps us civilized and organized. It has to be there, right? Because if you ever see, I hate to yes, I'm generalizing, sue me. You see like women squawking at each other. There's no real underlying threat of violence, and it gets fucking vicious, right? That's like going for the soul. It's like I would never say that shit. Brandon would kill me. And that's actually important. And again, so like, yes, it is technically assault, but like, for example, if you like threatened or like really verbally abused, like my wife or my kids, is like, I'll take the assault charges. But that's important to the order, right? Yeah. That is the consequence and the feedback. And that's also the importance of like roughhousing and play. We've been talking about, it goes back to two things, guys. Everything goes back to two things. One, we've been fucking up the kids, right? And we've been fucking up the money. And I think the money predates the fucking up the kids thing. And not in the Jeffrey Epstein way and the terrible like raising them way. Because boys need to like need to wrestle. That's where you learn boundaries and like the older kid. Like if you start mouthing off to the older kid, he might push you down. And again, that's how you learn these feedback social dynamics. Different for girls. It's a different setup. It totally is. I don't care if you say I'm sexist. I don't give a shit. It's just like it is what it is. And the over feminizing in schools where they just sit down, they're stuck in a desk. If they get into a fight, it's like, well, did the guy hit you with? Like there could be a legit reason. They're very much gonna have my kids get into a fight and go like, that you made the right call. Let's try to avoid those situations, but you fucking made the right call.
in a lot in school, what does it do? It generally it caters towards females because
Yep.
females generally learn better that way. And
And
then on
teachers are
top of that,
dominated female.
and exactly, and the administration, staff, teachers all generally tend to skew female. So it's a
Hmm.
very effeminate culture. Then you mix in, like you said, the lack of testosterone, the soy, all the things that people eat now. I mean, it's just a deadly concoction on
Yep.
with all of it. So it's not any one person's fault, right? And that's what's so hard to discern for the average person, and that's why we're here trying to unfuck the money, because that's, like you said, that's the oil spill upstream where everything now is infected downstream. You can't have
Yep.
good society from dishonest money, or you can't have good fruit from a bad tree. It's impossible.
100%.
And like everyone, all these stupid political things, all of it is like a bunch of idiots down 10 miles downstream with like pool skimmer trying to like get the oil out of the river. It's like, this is nonsense.
It's not
Like,
gonna work.
can we just go to the top of the freaking river and like turn the faucet off? Like, what are we doing here? That's the wild thing that's so hard to really grasp. And you said something too earlier about the holding your words in your head. That's one of the things that orange pilled me the most, almost a decade ago, was learning that, and it just blew me away. I was like, oh my gosh, you can hold your wealth in your head. Like, it was one of the most mind-blowing concepts I'd ever come across. And then also seeing the log chart of Bitcoin and seeing that, oh my gosh, it's a network effect. It's not like this, again, we talked about the price, and we started with that, like the price going up and down in fiat, and that just totally distracts from what's actually happening. The network effect, the fundamentals, the growing, the hash rate keeps growing and more miners keep, so like what the signal and all the noise is seeing the log chart, or the log chart even, of just going up and to the right, and people coming to the network and the network hardening it. And so I think those are so important to talk about over and over again, and like those epiphanies or aha moments for
Agreed.
people, because that's what other people relate to, talking about emotion, or thinking about emotion.
Oh, I completely agree. It's funny too. It makes crossing the border really confusing. It's like, do you have more than $10,000 on you? No,
Man.
not really. I don't know how to answer that question. I'll just
They wouldn't
continue
know
on
anyway.
my narrative.
Yeah, they wouldn't know. So like, no, because you wouldn't
understand
know.
anyways.
Yeah, they wouldn't understand.
It's completely borderless.
man.
Okay, so Brandon, let's hit on a few things.
Amazing.
One, is Bitcoin over? Is it done? Absolutely not. We are going. I think we're actually. I don't think we're in a bear market. I don't think. I think this is like a. Would you say like a short one, like maybe like a medium length, maybe like a just a large correction, and then we're kind of going to a new place. But I don't think we're gonna have like the 18 months of sideways chop. I've been wrong before, but that's just where my instincts currently are. And so I'm very optimistic about where things are going, even from a price prediction, but especially from like a building and tools perspective right now. So if anyone is feeling like a little bit unsure, they're feeling a little bit shaken, is there anything from your experience that you would throw out to like basically pump them back up? Or what should they be doing right now? Should be lifting meat, should be lifting heavy, eating meat, hanging out with the family. If you don't have a family, go find a pretty woman, make a family. Like, what should where do you direct people to feel maybe a little bit like, I feel off, I don't feel good right now?
That's such a great question, and it's get back to the basics. And I was saying this earlier. It's absolutely go touch grass, go work out. I mean, working out is like the greatest thing you can do, right? Getting your blood flowing, getting the endorphins going, all that stuff. Like, it's the greatest thing you can do. I know not everybody can do that. I mean, but like going for a walk, doing something like getting your body moving, eating right, getting the right sleep. Those are the base things. You have to be doing those. But also going back to the basics of again, like what you guys do with Bitcoin Mentor, going back to the basics, teaching people like what because like we all get in those lulls of like it's been a year or two and I really haven't studied the basics as much because we're off like doing these other things, and it's like every now and then you got to go back to the basics and reconvict yourself. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, this thing is amazing. It is what I thought it was, and when I studied it years ago, whenever it was. So going back and doing that, and then tangentially related to that was just me breaking myself out of the Bitcoin echo chamber of just like, I'm gonna watch people from all over the spectrum, like literally like 2-3 dozen people I've been watching, Judge Napolitano's show, Ron Paul, and then the Young Turks, like really crazy people on the American left and the crazy people on the American right that I was watching their YouTube channels, like really big channels. And that one, I will say, so as I said earlier, most people have no idea what's going on. They all have different opinion, which is true. But the second thing is my conviction, again, studying the fundamentals is great, but also the last 30, 40 days have been really eye-opening for me because I've only told 1 or 2 people this, but what it confirmed for me is, again, 99% of what all these people from every side of the spectrum are complaining about is fixed with Bitcoin. And that was very apparent. But you only get that, though, through putting in a lot of proof of work, a lot of studying, and spending the time for a month and watching all these different people and hours of watching it. And that is the one golden thread, I should say, I guess, or Bitcoin thread through all of this, which is, oh my gosh, Bitcoin continually fixes all the stupid things, or not the stupid things, but all the things these people keep saying, complaining about, and mind reading and cognitive dissonance, X, Y, and Z. It's all fixed with Bitcoin. Someone said here, God helps. God definitely helps. However, I know not everyone believes in God, et cetera, et cetera. So we're trying to,
Yep.
stay. That's my number one thing. It always comes back to God for me, number one. But at number two, here on Earth, in that sense of like in the secular world, the Bitcoin is the thing, the thread that goes through all of it. It's wild, Nathan. Like, it was an experience I wish everyone could
Right.
have, because it's like the conviction you have after that and seeing that is like, oh my gosh, like it's right there and it's very obvious. But got to put the work in.
Agreed. Put the
So-
work in. Go learn something new. If you still feel bad, I hear having sex makes it better.
Get the endorphins going. Get all of it
Get
going.
the endorphins going, boys.
Get them going. Get them going. Let me see the comments here really quick.
Yeah.
Hold on here a second. 10K up, 10K down. Show some of these. What are we at? Who cares about price short term? These are from a while ago. These are from an hour ago, actually. So
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Some of these. The values, yeah. And so
Bingo.
price
That's
drop,
beautifully
values
put.
same. It's a great one, exactly. Stay humble, stack sats. Oh yeah, of course. So we got a lot of the regulars in here. It's great to see everybody. Oliver,
Stack
Dagger,
sats,
all
stack
these people,
skills.
Chris, everyone. Yeah, exactly. So let me see if there's any pack greetings. What about you though? While I'm looking through some comments and putting some comments up here, what about you though, in the sense of what are you doing to just reground yourself?
Honestly, the Bitcoin price, and I'm not just being like, oh, it doesn't affect me. The Bitcoin price has not affected me at all whatsoever. It really has not bugged me. What has been like the Epstein files and a bunch of that shit coming out. One, going through it, it's fucking dark. And normally this stuff doesn't take a toll on me, but like reading through some of it, like, guys, I don't recommend it. Like, sometimes you need to see the monsters to realize like the evil that actually exists in the world. But like, I've definitely felt what's been getting to me a little bit has been like the constant cortisol drop of just how crazy shit keeps getting. Like, we're at war with Iran, then we're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran again. Now we're going into Venezuela. And now Jeffrey Epstein. There's no files. There's never any files. It's completely corrupt. It's totally fine. There's nothing to worry about. He didn't kill himself. Don't worry about it. Here's 3 million documents. And that's just what they show you. Right. And so I definitely am feeling a little bit of that, like, mental fatigue from just the nature of the job and things that, like, I love this job and I love what I do. But I definitely feel the mental fatigue, not from Bitcoin, but from the fucking insanity in fiat land. That like I could really use like a hut in the mountains for like a week.
Yes, it's so true. I heard there's like, this seems like a low number now. I mean, it's a lot, but it's low. But it was like 15 terabytes of video, just video or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that's insane. I mean, it's just
it's
just
also
disgusting.
like one of those, like, I knew about these things for so long, which is dark enough, but then like to have it feel like, but there's, I guess there's like still part of my mind that like, maybe it's not true. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like
yeah,
maybe it's not.
Hope. Yeah.
It's like, oh no, Pizzagate was real. It's all fucking real. It's there's vampiric demonic
That was just
monsters.
the tip. Yeah, exactly.
That was just, it was like, holy shit. By the way, I saw a post here from Chris saying, build your talent stack, have systems, not goals. That's from Scott Adams that he quoted there, which is a phenomenal piece of advice. I've told so many friends and things to focus on that talent stack, because where you really hit your stride is when you have a whole bunch of seemingly unrelated talents and you find that one place that they all come together to make something special. Because then it's not that you're like one in a million, it's you're one of one and you're the only one who can do it. And then you get to basically demand the check that you want or start the new business that doesn't exist.
Amazing. Unbelievable stuff. Thank you for coming on here today, brother. This is
of course, dude.
That was somehow an hour. It felt like it was 10 minutes. We just absolutely blitzkrieg
blew
through
by.
this thing.
I apologize to the chat for being late. That was me. I took an unexpected call. It was not Brandon. I was the asshole who was late.
Oh man. Well, it was like 5 o'clock and I put it up for like 5:10 and then I was like, oh shoot, I gotta bump it back to 5:20. So it was only 10 minutes.
Good. Still
It was
don't
only
want to
10
keep anybody
minutes.
waiting.
No, I got off earlier than I thought I was going to. I told you, I think it was at 4 with Caitlin, but it was actually at 3. So, but then of course we went an hour and a half. So I was like, well, good. It gave me a little bit extra time, so it was good. So yeah, no, thank you guys for coming on here today. We had a good crowd the whole time. I like these evening streams, man. What do you guys get when you guys do late night? I've not done a late night one with you guys. What's the attendance usually like at 10, 11 o'clock, 12 midnight or whatever?
Oh, it's not bad. We might get like 100 people or more in the room. It'll get picked up
really
in the
good.
morning too. If you go really late, you start to pick up on Europe at some point in time.
Yeah.
So if you're really late, you start to see Europe come through. But you'll get the late night. For me, they end up usually being at like I'm thinking around like 9 to like 10 or 11 Mountain Standard Time, which is getting like 1 a.m. for Eastern time there, right? But you get the people coming home from the bar. You get people that are bored hanging out. I do them scrolling stuff too. Sometimes I just like don't necessarily want to go to sleep. The late night streams are tons of fun. You Christopher, you were a legend. You had some great advice there with the Scott Adams stuff. And again, thank you so much for coming and spending time with us. Your time and your attention is extremely valuable, and I know I value it, and Brandon does as well.
Yeah, and we will definitely be doing. I was getting yelled at. I think it was by Dag or some other people over the last few days in some of my podcast episodes because they were like, "Where are the streams?" And I was telling you guys today why I
Yep.
haven't been streaming quite as much lately. But fear not, we will in the future be doing more streams together. Just in general, we'll be doing more streams on this channel, etc. Nathan and I in general will be doing more streams together going forward in the future, and yeah, it's just something we've been talking about over the last month or two, obviously, and a bunch of us, obviously, you know. So it's the way of the world, the way the world's moving, the way the world's shifting. So you guys can bet your bottom sat, not your bottom dollar, bet your bottom sat that you will see more Nathan and I together, plus others over time too. So,
Yep.
Amazing stuff, brother.
Wonderful.
good.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Appreciate you guys. Take care, everybody.
Later, friends.